The heavyweight division has an undisputed champion. It has great fights against its contenders coming up. And we're looking quite good for the future with the likes of Jared Anderson, Moses Telma, amongst others. So the heavyweight division is in a good place. And plenty of fighters are being named. Martin Bacoli is being named. Jared Anderson is being named. The Telma is on people's lips. Anthony Joshua versus Daniel Dubois. Fury Usyk, the rematch. What's going to happen with Wilder? Who's Parker? There's so much to talk about all heavyweights. And yet no one's mentioning Dillian Whyte. And there's a good reason why no one's mentioning Dillian Whyte, because we genuinely don't know what he's going to do next. Dillian Whyte was meant to face Anthony Joshua August last year. Now, roughly a week before the fight, I think it was the Saturday before they were meant to fight, Dillian Whyte had an adverse analytical finding, that's what we'll call it. And very smartly, he released a statement and that was it. And seemingly, everything's all good to go now. Seemingly, anyway. He made his return on St. Patrick's Day weekend on a Sunday in Castlebar. Yes, Castlebar, County Mayo, off the west coast of Ireland. Yes, this was a man who only, 2 years prior was headlining in Wembley Stadium with Tyson Fury. He was fighting at a hotel in Castlebar, County Mayo. Yes, I'll just say that again. Yes, he was headlining at Wembley Stadium against Tyson Fury in a pay-per-view fight for a world title. 2 years later, he was fighting in a hotel in Castlebar. Yes, anyway. Now, what is he going to do next? Because since then, that was in March, that was against Christian Hammer, we've heard zilch. And the reason why I asked that question is because although Dillian Whyte, I think it's safe to say, has seen better days at this point in his career, I think it's safe to say, if he still has a little bit left in the way of, physical ability, his punch resistance is, it's dreadful. It's truly dreadful at this point. The Christian Hammer fight is one of the few fights he's had in the last couple of years where he didn't get hurt. And Christian Hammer had no intention of winning that fight whatsoever. He quit after, 3 rounds? So Dillian Whyte, physically in terms of punch resistance, I think that for a lot of fighters, he is going to be there for the taking. And I think for a lot of fighters, they will fancy that fight. I look at Dillian Whyte, and it's a strange one because had the Joshua fight happened, I suspect he would have lost, and he probably would have lost in similar devastating fashion to the first fight. But it would have probably, at the very least, opened the door to fight on some of these Saudi shows. Because he's already been there before. He could have easily, got back on some of these Saudi shows and made some money. He's not even doing that. His name is not on the tongues of any of the heavyweights who are around. You're not hearing the likes of Ajay Kabayel. You're not hearing Zilli Zhang, Joseph. Well, you did hear Joseph Parker mention it. But again, we don't know where Dillian Whyte stands. And to be honest with you, I think for Joseph Parker, at this point in his career, and I've been saying this for a while, but more so now more than ever, he is just riding the quest of a wave. Back-to-back wins over Wilder, a win over Wilder and then a win over Zilli Zhang. And then he could be, why isn't he? Why shouldn't he call for Dillian Whyte? Try and avenge that loss. But he's just, again, it's almost like, and I'm not saying anything's happened, but it's like he's had his win and now it's back to radio silence. He's made his comeback in a show in Ireland and now it's back to radio silence. Because we've heard it's June. And we're hearing absolutely nothing about fight news for him. We're hearing nothing come up. What is actually going on with Dillian Whyte? Is there still some issues? Is he trying to make sure? Because he is a big name in the UK. He's not such a big name elsewhere in the world. You wouldn't expect Dillian Whyte to go to America and become an overnight superstar or anything like that. Or even if he was fighting or headlining in America, for there to be much fan intrigue, because he's primarily known on this side of the pond. The British Boxing Board of Control work with, I think they're the ones who actually oversee the fights in Saudi Arabia. So if he can't, at this moment in time, fight under a British license, if he can't get on good terms with the British Boxing Board of Control, and we don't know what's happening there, what's next for him? What does he do? Does he try and actually base himself in other countries? Does he try and base himself? Because obviously Ireland is not far from the UK. With the west coast of Ireland is a little bit trickier because there's no airport, I believe anyway, from the UK into there, but I know there isn't. That doesn't make sense, but is that what he's looking to do? Base himself in Ireland to get, it's as good as, it's not far, it's an hour's flight from London to Dublin, but is that what he's trying to do, or what is actually going on with him? Because I think it's weird. Like, he comes back in a nothing fight in March, and now we're hearing nothing. And to be fair to Dillian Whyte, even though I think his best days are behind him, I still think he has a little bit left to offer in terms of fights he can be in. Like I said, I think him against Joseph Parker would be an interesting fight. Dillian Whyte will go into that fight full of confidence because he'll just think, well, I beat you once, I can beat you again. It was 6 years ago. And Joseph Parker, being the fact that Joseph Parker, you could argue maybe now is in the peak of his career. And as some people would say, well, that's a bit strange. Well, it's not really. He's only in his early 30s. Most heavyweights peak when they're in their early 30s anyway, late 20s, early 30s. Joseph Parker turned pro very, very young. I think he was well in his early 20s when he turned pro. When he was heavyweight champion, WBO, I think he was in his mid-20s. So Joseph Parker right now and he's looking to have bulked up a bit. Right now, you could argue he's probably coming into maybe his physical and his mental peak. So Joseph Parker will go into that fight thinking, you beat me up when I was young. And even then it was a close fight. You beat me when I was young. Now let's see what happens. That's an interesting fight. The winner of Joe Joyce versus Derek Chisora, I'm pretty much certain it'll be Joe Joyce. Wouldn't really want to see a trilogy fight with Chisora. Wouldn't want to see Chisora at all, to be honest with you. But there's that fight there in the UK. And for Joe Joyce, that's really the kind of fight he would need. A Dillian Whyte fight, because it's a credible enough name to have on your resume. If you do a demolition job on him, all well and good. You'll probably be able to buzz him. Certainly, if you can knock out Joseph Parker, you can knock out Dillian Whyte, because I think he takes a much better shot anyway than Dillian Whyte. He'll give you opportunities to hit him. You do have to worry about what's coming back. He's dangerous with the left hook. But for the most part, you would say Joe Joyce is, even though he's older, he's fresher. He's not had the kind of miles in the wars that Dillian Whyte has had. So maybe that's the route he's looking to go down. Because I really don't, again, we've heard very, very little from Dillian Whyte over the last almost a year. From August till March there was nothing. Then he had that show in Castlebar, and now we're hearing pretty much zilch again. Some of his fighters are in good fights, like the Fabio Wadley, who I think is still with Dillian Whyte. I think he's still managed by him. Alan Babbage is now fighting Johnny Fisher on a Matchroom show. So, there's stuff going on, but without Dillian Whyte. And again, he might be past it. He probably is. But I still think he has that little bit left to offer the heavyweight division. Maybe maybe we could finally see Whyte versus Wilder. Both guys at the tail end. I doubt it, and I think Wilder would be well advised to retire, but that's there. It's maybe an option, who knows. Let me know your thoughts. What is next for Dillian Whyte? Is he gonna, what's going on? What do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed the video, people. Smash the like button if you could. Hit subscribe, of course, as always, if you haven't already. For now, I'll leave it there. Peace.